Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss about IELTS writing module, question types and the tips to crack the writing exam. See, for example, you have to know one thing first. See, IELTS academic and IELTS general writings are different from one another. When you want to talk about IELTS general, you have letter writing, okay, whereas in academic they have picture description, map or chart, or it is more of like a transcoding. Whereas in writing task 2 it is writing essays. Writing essays is common for both, but the difficulty level between academic and general will differ. For example, academic level will expect a lot of academic related tasks, academic related writing. The vocabulary is very high-fi, whereas in the general writing task 2, you will be writing essays. Okay, so we'll deal about all these things one by one. Let's move on to the next slide. So let me just talk about the writing task 2. You may be confused. Why am I talking about writing task 2 first rather than talking about task 1? That is also logical, right? You have to talk about task 1 and task 2. The reason behind talking about task 2 is that task 2 carries 1/3 of actually, see, the maximum mark, whereas writing task 1 will be just a part of it. For example, there are 10 marks for writing. You will have 3 to 4 marks for writing task 1 and 6 marks for writing task 2. So the weightage is very high. That's why I'm talking about writing task 2. So writing task 2, you have essays to write, and for writing task 1 you will write it for 20 minutes. Writing task 2 you have to write it for 40 minutes. Writing essays, it is for 40 minutes. The number of words or word count for essays should be between 260 to 275. You may ask me, or you may have a doubt, is it a problem if I could write more than 250 to 300 words or around 300 words? It's not a problem, whereas you need to understand one thing. This is all about, these exams are all about understanding. So they want to know your understanding level. How do you comprehend within the given time frame and within the word limit? That is why this is done. So even if you write it for more than 280 words, it's not a problem, but you should make sure that you are not making too many mistakes. When you're making too many mistakes, there will be errors and there will be marks cut for that. So you need to be aware of that. That is one important point. You have to keep it in your mind. And the other points to keep it in mind are such as, number one, no short forms or symbols to be used in essays. You cannot use any short forms or acronyms or as short forms. For example, if it is TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, you cannot write TEFL. You may have to write it full, actually. So you cannot use any symbols. For example, actor, you cannot use the word, the letter actor or symbol actor, which you use it in emails or something like that. So avoiding such symbols like at, and, okay, or you use it slash, all that. So you should be avoiding that. And what else can you just incorporate while writing essays? You may write or use two proverbs, okay, in the essay, proverbs. You may start with a proverb, no problem. That's not a problem even if you don't use it, but if you use it, it will be effective. And can use any number of phrases and idioms. Phrases and idioms that you need to understand what is an idiom and how can you use it effectively. Okay, so these are the things you have to take it in account. And use of quotations are optional, You can quote from any writings or any books or any sayings, whatever it may be, but that are optional. If the topic is about advantages and disadvantages, you as a student have to give an example and explain the situation, not simply talking about advantages, the number of advantages it has, number of disadvantages it has. So what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to actually explain with examples. So that is wonderful. And you may pose a question and answer it. You may actually ask a question in the introduction, and answering that in the following paragraphs will be better. So it is important to keep in your mind all these points you are supposed to remember, so that you will be able to write an effective essay, and it will give very good marks as well. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. And whenever you write an essay, you always tend to write it for 4 paragraphs. I would rather suggest you to write for 5 paragraphs. Your essay should contain 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph as an introduction, and the second paragraph as stating your argument, third paragraph giving supporting points, fourth paragraph it is contrasting points and conclusion. If there is compare and contrast, you will be following that. Whereas if it is all about disadvantages, disadvantages, or opinion essays, you will be able to write one introduction, advantage, disadvantage, and your own opinion and conclusion. Or if it is for and against essay, one introduction and one for, one against, and your own opinion, and then conclusion. So these are the points you can keep in your mind. And in conclusion, okay, right, reiterate the introduction. Okay, don't try to tell what is told in that. Okay, try to just communicate properly, and do not give any fresh points there. And phrases and idioms can be given. Okay, it is advisable always to start with a phrase whenever you are writing an introduction, whereas in the conclusion you don't have to follow that. Okay, let's move on to the other points, or points that are taken for consideration for evaluation. I'm moving on to the next slide. Let's see. See, these are the points the examiner will be looking at. Okay, so points noted in evaluation are: number 1, content; number 2, how well have you stuck with the topic, you are sticking with the topic, and the number of paragraphs, and meeting the word count. Number 5 is grammar and vocabulary, how effectively you used your grammar and vocabulary, that is important. Number 6, use of idioms and phrases. These are also taken for consideration. Accordingly, your marks will be split and given. So these are supposed to be remembered or kept in mind while writing an essay. Let me talk about the different types of essays. See, there are many different types of essays. Descriptive essay is there, narrative essay is there, cause and effect essay is there, problem solution essay is there, advantages, disadvantages essays there, for and against essays there, okay, opinion essays are there. So you may have to know all these different types of letters, and know how to write that, and read enough samples to write better. Let me move on to general writing task 1, that is called letter writing. The time limit for writing letters is 20 minutes, and the word count or word limit for letters are 165 to 175, maximum 180 words. And there are actually 3 different types of letters are there. Okay, and anyone could be asked, so it is important to know the formats better. The formats are as follows, or the different types of letters are also as follows. Number 1, formal letters. See, formal letters, which you write it for communicating formal messages. For example, you're writing to the manager of a company, or you're writing to the bank manager or a bank employee of a company regarding a complaint. That could be a formal letter. So this is supposed to be followed. what should it contain? It should contain a date, the salutation, dear sir or madam. The subjects can be 8 to 10 words. Okay, don't write running sentences. Better write the precise subject there. And the paragraph 1, it is always talking about what is the purpose of writing the letter. And then who you are and why are you writing the letter. What is the reason behind writing the letter is coming in paragraph 2. So you may have to explain, okay, the reason for writing the letter, and the paragraph 3 and 4 explain the need for writing the letter in detail. That is like explaining the details, whatever you need or whatever you want to complain. So it is important to keep it in mind. Paragraph 5, the conclusion, generally it is a requesting statement. And then your enclosure, closing sentence, okay, with yours faithfully or yours sincerely. You can use yours sincerely only when you use the name of a person in the salutation. Otherwise, you will use only faithfully, signature and name. And whenever you apply for job application, okay, so you will be using this type of format, or complaint letter, or requisition letter. All these will be used. All these you will be following this format. And the second type of letter is informal letters, and it will contain date, salutation. There's no subject absolutely, okay, because you are writing to a known person, to a friend or to your relative. So it is important, okay. You may start with hi, okay, my dear friend, like that. You can start in the salutation, but it is not necessary to use a subject there. And in the paragraph 1, you will be exchanging your greeting, why you are writing this letter to them. You will be explaining, for example, okay, hey, hi, my dear friend, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm writing to invite you for a party, invite you for a birthday party, anything. Or I am writing to know about certain details from you, whatever it is, you will be writing. And the paragraph 2, 3, and 4 should be as per the question, depending on the question and what is given in the writing task you will be following. And paragraph 5, it is conclusion. And here you don't use actually yours faithfully or sincerely, rather you will use regards, yours lovingly, and then signature. There's no name here. Absolutely. And number 3 is a semi-formal letter. It is quite confusing, isn't it? It is, because it is neither formal nor informal, semi-formal. You are writing to a person whom you know very well. Okay, maybe you are writing a letter to a secretary of a building where you are living in. You know the secretary personally, but you are writing this to talk about certain official matters, the problems that you're facing. So you may use informal and formal letter combination. So it has a different format, and there will be date, the salutation, dear Mr. So and so, you will mention. It will have a subject, and in the first paragraph, you will exchange greeting and then talking about the reason behind writing. Whereas in formal letter, you don't exchange any greeting. Straight away, you will write the reason behind writing the letter. So it is this is a letter written to a known person. So you don't have to introduce yourself. Whereas in the formal letter, you generally inform yourself and your details, give them your details, and then go ahead. So it is always important to know this. And the paragraph 2, 3, and 4 should be written as per the question, whatever they have asked. For example, the letter is like this: you are living in an apartment where there are some functions going on, and or you want to arrange some functions. You need to get some permission from your secretary of the building, so you are writing the letter. So your content will vary depending on that. So you will be giving details related to that. And the paragraph 5 is a conclusion. And you will always write yours sincerely, because you are writing the name of the person in the salutation. Dear Mr. Ramesh or Dear Mr. Muhammad. So it must be yours sincerely and a signature without name. That's it. And here comes academic writing task 1. Let's move on to the next slide. See, all right, this is, what is the check? I forgot to tell you what is the checklist for writing the letters. Write the word count, that is 165 to 175, date to signature, whatever the format you follow. No usage of proverbs and idioms. Okay, you don't have to use it. No change of time in grammar. Okay, you need to be very careful how you are using your grammar, and avoid using respected, request, please, and thank you and all. Use grateful instead of the above. Look for the task completion, and the examiner will see, have you just explained whatever is given in the task. Each letter will have 2-3 tasks to be completed, or 2-3 tasks to be covered. So they will talk about that only, and they will check about that alone also. So let's move on to the next slide. Last but not least, this is time to talk about writing task 1, IELTS academic. Here you will be describing about graphs, charts, tables. So what is important to cover in writing? So you may have to, for example, you have a bar graph. Introducing the graph is very important. Bar chart or bar graph is there. Okay, the given bar graph describes about the number of net Airtel users. So this is introduction and the overall picture. As you see, you will be identifying what is the overall picture show or showing. So you will be writing that, and if required, you will be comparing and contrasting, and you will conclude, and also you will be following the grammar and other given details depending on. For example, it's all about past activity, or it is all about 1980, data is related to 1980. So you will not be able to use a present simple or present continuous tense. Rather, you will be using past tense, past passive voice, past continuous tense, all that. And depending on the type of writing, your grammar will be changing. So you need to be very careful. And in order to write these tasks, you have to go through as many writings as possible. Read samples, try to write one or two actually, then you will be understanding the task completely and finishing. As I have already mentioned, the writing task 1 carries 1/3 of the mark. Okay, and the writing 2 will carry 2/3 of the marks, overall marks. So it is meant for, the writing task is meant for 20 minutes, and the writing task 2 is meant for 40 minutes. Overall, you will be writing for 1 hour. And any writing is easy, and you can actually achieve the targeted score if you practice well and have a very good guide or a trainer who can correct your mistakes, correct your essays, correct your writing task 1 and 2, give you proper guidance to use or write, so that you will be able to understand everything. So I suggest you guys, go prepare yourself, read a lot to write better. Listen to speak. If you want to speak well, listen well. If you want to read well or write well, read well. First, read to write. So reading will give a lot of focus when you write something. So it is always important to have some practice on these things. This will be helpful. Anyhow, thank you very much and all the best for you.